And sure enough, Sabi begins to learn of her lineage from Tubulayefa to Perekeme and her great-grandmother, Queen Boma, known for both her brave and generous nature, always willing to extend a helping hand. She hears the names of the kings and queens before her. The fierce-looking man in a hood, whom Sabi knows nothing about other than the fact that he was sent by her family, who happens to be royalty from the land of Warijafa, suddenly grows gentle, kind eyes as he continues in his monologue. Sabi was lost in her thoughts. She had heard some of these names before from her father, but they were told as moonlight stories that every father would tell their child, she thought. Her father would narrate tales of hidden kingdoms beyond the sea, recounting Tubulayefa's adventurous journey traversing both the sea and the river channels, and his brave encounter with strange men with skin of red and white, pale as cotton, as if slightly burnt by the sun. Her father would always say, upon the return of Tubulayefa to the land, sensing the uncertainty of times to come, he issued a new decree. To ensure that everyone played their part in protecting the people, he asked the women to remove the wrapper that crowned their heads and to tie it around their waists, symbolizing their willingness to work for the safety of their children and families. This practice led to producing some of the most skilled female royal guards the land had ever seen.
Papa, have you ever seen these strange-looking men? Do they have sharp teeth that can bite?
Sabi would always ask her father, but her father would always laugh and say, Abinla, I am just a poor farmer, but one day you will come to know. In Sabi's eyes, she had always seen her father as a very odd man, telling dramatic tales and stories, always finding a strange way of doing things, but this one was just too much, she thought to herself. Meanwhile, as a festival in the palace in Buadi took a different turn, the kingdom of Warijafa was in celebrations, just as King Miabaka had commanded, and so a decree was issued throughout the land that every trade and marketplace be closed down and a feast be held instead, in honor of Prince Lebaroke. Miabaka generously exhausted all efforts to ensure that everyone in the land of Warijafa became aware not just of Labour's return, but also of the one thing that completely disqualifies him from ever becoming king, his severed arm. Behind his welcoming smile hides a sinister plot to erase from everyone's mind the single idea that Lebaroke could ever become king. He couldn't have imagined a better outcome. Labour's humiliation was the best gift in Miabaka's mind that he had received in years. My cousin, how the years have dealt harshly with you. Step forward, if you will, so that I may have a better look at you. And so Labour and his wife Benny stepped forward and knelt before Miabaka. These many years have brought great blessings for all of us. Here are my sons, Peralayefa and Ibidowe. Is this all that belongs to you? Or has your cup, which should run with the fountain of life, run dry, my cousin? Labour replies to the king, the king has been blessed, and the land flourishes because of it. What am I, that I should produce any flow of my own? The finest pot can never produce food on its own unless someone gives attention to it. My king, we greet you, my wife and I, along with our daughter, who is not here today as she had to stay back with the other maidens to properly learn to conduct herself as a royal. A daughter? Miabaka was amused by Labour's pitiful condition, and so he struggled unsuccessfully to hide his disgust, replying mockingly to Labour, "And you are wise for making sure she stays back. One never knows what kind of crawling things she must have picked up, having been raised in such filth. But I'm sure you would know, wouldn't you? I've never understood your fascination with dirt, so I'll make your stay more comfortable. This is my gift to the house of Lebaroke, the orchard and the farmlands that once belonged to our grandfather in all the lands of Isoma, they are now yours to use as you see fit and roll around in to your heart's content." And so Miabaka laughed out loud and urged Labour to reside in the land among the people. Having grown a thick skin over the years, Labour could only be grateful, with his confidence renewed that his family would be safe living in Warri-Joffa. He only wondered about the progress of the spies. And so it was that beyond the confines of the palace in Buadi, Sabi found herself lost in thoughts over the unexpected chance to reunite with her family. Sabi struggled with the weight of her circumstances as a captive princess, recognizing the heightened risks and responsibilities that came with her royal status, far surpassing those of a mere farmer's daughter. But Bariza, being a much older man with extensive experience, understood even more deeply. Without needing to be told, he recognized that these men were from the elite soldiers of Warri-Joffa. If they were compelled to act in secret to retrieve one of their own taken by a king that their ruler held in little regard, especially considering the royal status of the captive, it only indicated that the king of Warri-Joffa had not been made aware of this situation. Bariza quickly calculated the resulting effect that although the odds looked favorable because any resulting backlash can be managed and contained, there was no way for him to emerge from the situation without suffering harm. Feeling deeply distressed, he remembers the gold pallets he gave to Omero, instructing her to ensure Sabi's safety. With Sabi's true identity now revealed, he will be perceived as a traitor, colluding with a rival empire against the throne. He begins to imagine the dangers, but on the other hand, Sabi was very observant. Meeting the eyes of the men surrounding her, she noticed that two of the strong-looking men had their gaze scanning the surroundings, but mostly fixed directly on her, while the third one, the strongest looking of the bunch, stood poised and tensed up, with his gaze shifting back and forth from her and then to Bariza. She saw that Chief Bariza looked distressed. The fierce-looking man, whom she remembered standing tall in her father's field, now appeared completely broken as he knelt in front of her. Seeing that the men were probably bound by some kind of royal law to obey her, she raised her hand to signal to them to stay calm. "I bear you no grudge," Sabi declared. Speaking to Bariza, she continued, "Tari told me how you arranged for my care with Mama Omero and how the decision you made on that day in my father's field might have spared my family and the entire village of Ngede. Is this true?" Managing a strained smile, Bariza maintains eye contact with Sabi as he begins to speak. "I have become like a bird that flies to the sky and lands on an anthill. Am I not still on the ground, my princess? I have done what I can to protect the people of this land, as I have protected you. But now, who will protect my family? Like you, my father, though not of royal blood, is a son of the land of Warri-Joffa, and for generations my house has served the king of Buadi. But if it becomes known that you are princess of the royal house of Warri-Joffa, I and my entire family will be condemned as traitors. What is left for me to do?" Sabi replies without a moment's hesitation, "What if I stay back and remain a farmer's daughter?" Princess, the men will have nothing of it. Coming from a long line of rulers, it was disturbing to them that Sabi would suggest such a thing. But her mind was made up, because to her there was no other way. "Tell my father that the wrapper that crowns my head is now wrapped around my waist. What kind of daughter will I be if I become the reason for weeping in the land?" Sabi tells the men, with tears welling up in her eyes. She then turns to Bariza. "What has happened here today must be told to no one. But I will ask a favor of you. Will you teach me, please, as my father did? Can I trust you with this task?" Bariza responds by giving her his word and handing over his family crest, thereby surrendering his role as the head of his family to Sabi. "What are your names?" Sabi asked. Before he even had the chance to open his mouth to speak, one of the men replied, Bariza Okubo Eselemo, chief and head tax collector, keeper and guard of the royal treasury. We have the names of everyone in your household, going back 8 generations. If you so much as flinch against the words spoken here today and cause any harm to befall the princess, the wrath of your king will be a love song compared to what we will bring upon you.